Welcome, boys and squirrels, to the Northern Outcast Outdoors podcast, The Outcast, your home for all things hunting, fishing, and ball busting related. Powered by Citizens Hunting Co., A&F Custom Calls, and Out on a Limb Manufacturing.
So this is season 2, episode 8. All right, we're going to get away from the fishing talk because that was total bullshit. Yeah, just kidding. Listen, I loved the fishing episodes. Don't get me wrong. The one with Guck.
Hey, amazing. It's because you just made fun of me the whole time.
Yeah, that's what pretty much made me enjoy it the most, yes. But we have our buddy Kyle back here tonight.
Hello.
Notice I mentioned back here. That means he was here once before.
Oh boy.
Twice before.
Twice, yeah.
We'll forget about the second time.
Yeah. You made a guest appearance on the Seaburn Piece Together episode, the lost episode of Seaburn. Now we have the magical lost episode of the Kyle Lambright. So Kyle is back. He is way less sober this time than he was the first time, let me tell you. So
no, more sober.
This should be
trashed.
No, way less sober this time.
Oh,
right? He was totally with it last time. It was a beautiful podcast. Somehow we lost the audio. I apologize.
What a shame.
Yeah,
what a shame. So this time we're going to rectify that. And we're going to give you an opportunity to bounce back player B and give us a beautiful podcast. So Kyle, what's going on tonight, man? What's happened?
Well, it's going to happen. I mean, thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
We got a little whiskey bent and squirrely eyed last time, but you get me talking hunting and then,
it was
flowing. Things evolve.
Yeah. And, the alcohol was flowing last
It was a
time.
good time.
Indeed. So why don't you give everybody a little background of yourself, a little introduction, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, I grew up, basically hunting's always been my passion. I, can remember, watching my dad leave for hunts, and it was like, I just wanted to go with him. And all that day, I would stand at the window, just wait for him to come home, expecting to see a deer in the back of his car, hanging out of the trunk, Yeah. It's a broke trailer boy, but, I just wanted to go hunting with Dad ever since I can remember. And that's really, what started all for me. I knew I was going to be a hunter from the start. And just my earliest from memories is just, wanting to go hunting.
Yeah. You sound a lot like my beagle standing by the window and just waiting for me to get home.
Yeah, that's basically what I was. I was that dog at the window, paws up, just waiting, tongue hanging out, whatever, rearing to go.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing with this strong hunting culture when you have someone in your family, in the woods. And it was like, man, when you were 10, 11, 9 even, you were really itching at it. Like, what is this scouting they're doing? Right. I always wondered in my head, what is this scouting that they're doing? I want to go do that. Like, that sounds like fun. Not realizing really what they were doing at all. Like, they were just walking through the woods.
Right. Or going to camp, slamming a bunch of beers with their buddies,
Maybe looking for mushrooms. Who knows? I don't know what they were doing, but I always thought this scouting thing was like this big, beautiful,
I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
You'll get there, Sibs.
You'll get there.
Yeah, sooner or later.
You got it. You got to be that dog at the window.
I am. I'm currently leashed and being walked around the forest by this core group of guys, and they're teaching me the ways.
Pretty soon you'll know what scouting is all about, bud.
Eventually.
Don't worry. But I agree with you. Pennsylvania's been pretty darn good to the youth hunters, these days. There's a lot of opportunity. As long as they have a mentor, you can get them out early. For me, I really didn't get out until I was 11. And it was just, chomping at the bit that first Monday, getting out of school.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't even care about all year, I just was, especially that first year, it's all I could think about. Grades suffered a little bit, I put them where I needed them to be, but
that's right. C's get degrees.
That's right.
Don't forget it.
Yeah, that's right. But really what got me, sucked into is in 1998, I was 14. And I remember it's the last day of rifle season for buck. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think buck was like the first week or something back then.
They had a 3-day buck season or something along those lines, or the first week. I can't remember what it was.
98,
98. I wasn't even hunting yet, so
right.
Anyone else want to
chime in?
Put
me in my place there, a little fart around here. But I remember it was the last day, and my father had, we all but hung it up, and he had come to get me out of my tree stand, and I got down out of the tree stand. I'm like, Dad, give me one more bullet. We got to walk through the field to get back to the truck. And, as luck would have it, or fate, as we're crossing the field, I see him motion to me to stop. And I was about 30 yards behind him. He's like, Buck, can you see it? Can you see it? And I couldn't. And I was like, I just wanted a deer on the ground. I was like, shoot it. I can't see it. So he shoots, and it's a solid 120-yard shot. And it was a big-bodied deer. And he hit it, and it was in an open field. So the buck really couldn't tell where the shot come from. Ended up this deer full tilt right towards us. And my dad's yelling at me, shoot. But, in my head, I had one bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I got to make it count. And this deer's running at us. He shoots again. We later find out that he nicks the antler. And then this deer gets within 30 yards of me. And I just remember tracking it in the scope. And I squeeze the trigger. And that thing just tumbles, head over heel, 30 yards in front of us. And then I just let out this big, I wasn't breathing. I had the biggest tunnel vision. And here I got this, big framed 8-point, probably 20-inch spread, probably 120-inch deer. And, I was sucked. That had me. And I've been, at it now for 27 years. And, it's just, it's what gets me, it's what keeps me going,
Yeah. It was almost like the old Deer Hunter arcade game, right?
Exactly.
Like Duck Hunter, but with the deer,
No, that's a
you
great description.
And they topple over forward.
That thing tumbled, and I was just all smiles. I couldn't wait to get to school, show everybody the pictures.
Hell yeah, man. That's what it was all about.
Yeah. I remember dragging that thing. We had to drag it about 100 yards through the field, and that deer was 5 times the size of that, as me. I was about 90 pounds soaking wet, and there's a 200-pound deer. But just from then, just that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that drag, that painful drag, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I remember, now that I'm thinking about it, I think when I was first starting hunting, there was like a 3-day early doe-only season, and then I think the first week might have been buck-only I can't remember. But there was definitely a buck-only season back then, because I remember, my dad and them always talking about how they go out and see 100 doe, and they can't shoot any of them. Yep. You're just looking for the slightest bit of antler back then. So,
yeah.
1, that's a great buck, but 2, what a memory, your first, right? Is that your first buck?
That was my first deer.
That was your first deer ever? Okay.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. I wanted a deer from the start, but to get one that decent, especially back then in 98 when, all your grandpas and uncles are shooting spikes. And
yeah, if you shot a 4-point,
yeah,
you were the man.
Yeah.
You were the man.
So
now, did you have like a camp that you guys all went to, or did you go camping somewhere?
So this property, actually, I still hunt it. It was my father and I had done some work for the farmer. Mm-hmm. We put a roof on their shed and did some siding work and things like that. And through that, my dad, kind of scoped out the property, and he knew where, I was addicted to hunting and hadn't even been out. So he worked his way in there, and we got access to the property, and I'm still friends with the property owner right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's gone downhill a little bit there, but, to go there and reminisce a little bit, it's still, brings me back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everyone should remember where they shot their first deer, their first buck. Sabella, you remember?
Let's keep moving along here.
But that's cool, man. That's we talk about it a lot on the podcast about like those first years, those early years of being a rifle hunter, and like that was the tradition, PA tradition. Like we're talking first day, you're talking first day of rifle.
Yeah.
That's what everyone looked forward to. It was like we used to call it Bloody Monday.
Yeah,
that was our theme, Bloody Monday, and that we loved it. It's just the anticipation. You go out and you stay. We used to camp a lot, and we'd stay all weekend and then wait for that Monday to hit. And man, you're just like,
yeah. Well, if you're like me, it's better than Christmas morning.
Well,
it still is.
Definitely, it is. It's more anticipated than Christmas morning for sure. Now, mine's maybe shifted a little more towards archery first day, but regardless,
that's only because of the crowds. I'm the same way.
Yeah. So. Shit, man. You are old, huh? 98. Jeez. Anyways, moving along.
Yeah, move along.
So you're a PA boy, born and raised, but as you were introduced to us, more or less, you're more of a Western hunter kind of guy. You're the guy that has shot muleys and has been out West hunting a lot. How the hell do you get into something like that?
Yeah. Well, for me, I got pretty good at hunting whitetail. And eventually I figured it out that, the harder my seasons were, that the more memorable they were. And that even meant more, when I had success. I started to find out pretty quick that my more painful or uncomfortable hunts were the ones I actually wanted to participate in. So, I started, pushing myself, and we had a camp in the Alleghenies, or we still do. And I just wanted to go further and deeper for some reason. And just, I wanted the success. I wanted to get a big buck in the mountain. So, pretty soon I'd found myself, outpacing my uncles, my grandparents, my brothers, and I just going deeper and deeper in the woods. And I had some success, and pretty early on I figured out if you're going deeper in the woods, it's going to be a painful drag out. And, that's what I wanted, but I knew in the long run that wasn't sustainable. I remember one buck I had shot in the Alleghenies. It was about 2 miles from our camp, and the majority of the drag was uphill. And I had shot that deer, nice 6-point, make a long story short, but it was at 10 a.m. And by the time I got back to camp, it was going on 8 o'clock. And I come home to camp, I got a million text messages, Mom, Grandpa, you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I told you before I left, I said, if I'm not back before dark, that's a good thing. That means I got what I was after. I'm good. Don't worry about me. And, what really got me into thinking, about going out west is, I don't know if you guys remember, but The Wild Within was a TV series. It came out in 2011 and featuring Steven Ranella. And it was just a one season. It was on the Travel Channel, and I stumbled across it. And his message was that, it's doable. If you want to do it, it's not going to cost you $1 million. Prepare yourself, save a little bit of money, and go after it. And then pretty soon after that, he launched Meat Eater, and that was just a TV show that, I look forward to watching and still do. I would just take in all the content I could, and I just wanted to go out west.
I mean, makes sense, but dude, I understand the itch, like the itch to go for. You're one of them. What's over the next ridge kind of guys, right?
Exactly,
like you just got to keep pushing forward. I do that to myself way too much. Sometimes not to my own benefit, like you said. I mean, sometimes you get back in there and you expect it to look one way, and you're like, damn, I went a little too far, maybe. But how are you supposed to know if you don't go?
Right.
You got to know what's on that next ridge, right? You got to explore it.
Yeah. And I was taking all the content I could, and, pretty soon I found myself, still doing those, deep woods hunts, but now I'm quartering out my own deer, with confidence, and, instead of dragging deer 2 miles, I'm packing quarters out, getting the whole deer out of there in 2 hours as opposed to 6 or 8.
Yeah.
So, all along, I'm just, I didn't know how to make that next step. Mm-hmm. But, for me, the stars really aligned, and this is in 2017. But my girlfriend, she's working at a lodge and pack station in Oregon for the summer. She was a traveling nurse, but she would take the summers off and work these pack jobs. And the one lodge she was working for in Oregon, she's like, you need to come elk hunt. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. She's like, dude, just do it. So, that summer I really started preparing and, getting all my gear together, what I thought I needed, what I hoped I needed, but in 2017, I finally made my way out west and did my first elk hunt, which also turned into mule deer and black bear. It's the tags I had that year.
Nice. So sticking with gear for a minute there, what was like the first piece when you thought, okay, you obviously had that urge, you wanted to go out west, you've been seeing, Ranella and some other people doing it, and you had that itch. You're like, I got to do it.
Yeah.
What was the first number one item where you were just like, you know what, that's the thing I got to have. I'm not skimping on it.
Yeah. Good pack.
Yeah.
Good pack, and it was, that was the one thing I knew I was going to need, especially if I got something, even, hunting deep in the Alleghenies, I needed a good pack. I didn't have one at the time. At the time I was just making an old military pack work, and, that thing would be rubbing my shoulders raw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's no frame on it. I just had it loaded down. I come home with like all rope burn on my shoulders and stuff. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be carrying something out that's, 500-600 pounds.
Oh yeah.
It's like I gotta have a good pack. Also, I want to keep all my stuff safe. So a good pack was priority number one. And also the first year I went out, I actually did a drop camp hunt, and it was supplied. So that took a little bit of the pressure off.
Sure.
So most of the stuff was there. I only had to bring what I needed to hunt and my food. And that was in 2017. That was a late September hunt, and that ended up being in the peak of the rut. And I wasn't completely prepared that year, but just the rut activity just had me. I mean, I would go to bed hearing bugles.
Oh yeah.
And from night one, I got packed in on horseback, which was awesome. You dream about that as a kid, getting packed in on a horse, that's the typical Western hunt.
How far in did you go on horseback?
This was about 7 miles.
7 miles.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good little hike.
I don't even want to drive 7
Yeah.
miles.
Yeah.
Almost a couple hours, maybe? A couple hours on a
No,
horse?
it's all uphill. This is in northeastern Oregon, which I should say.
Yeah.
About as much as I'm willing to zone in on my
that's
location. It's in the
steep.
Eagle Caps. The Eagle Caps they call the Little Alps, and I believe that's where Cam Hanes kind of cut his teeth too.
Okay.
And it's beautiful country, but it's steep, it's rugged, and the pack in, all but that last mile is all uphill.
Jeez. Have you ridden horses prior to this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had a little experience.
Experience.
And you were with other people in this camp? Like people you knew
Nope.
or people you didn't know?
No.
You were all by yourself?
This is completely solo. So I had to actually.
He's a madman. He's a madman.
Your first trip out west, where you were him hawing around, I don't know if I want to do that or not. And then you go on a solo pack in, drop camp, horseback ridden in, where you can get thrown off this horse at any time. And you're done.
No cell service.
We're not talking to Cal right now if that happens.
Only thing I had was a GPS, a Garmin with the SOS button,
the oh shit button.
Oh shit button.
Yeah.
And
how was that ride? I mean, listen, I just rode my first horse ever this past weekend, so I'm kind of pumped up about it. All right, I want to talk about the horse.
You're going to be packing?
You should.
Sometime soon to the
You're going with me
Alps?
next year is what you're saying.
That's what I heard.
I'm in. I'm ready.
All
Let's
right.
go to Wyoming.
See you in hell.
Did I just sneak Wyoming in there?
Yes.
But I mean, rugged uphill. Dude, that's kind of intimidating. How do you even know where to go? I mean, are they pretty defined trails?
Yeah, so it was semi-guided. So it was a drop camp, and the lodge had they had a couple reserved campsites for hunters.
Gotcha.
So most time, at least where I've been, in Oregon, they're very defined trails, and even Onyx. I mean, Onyx is I had it that year, thank God. But Onyx has great mapping. Not to name drop, but I really think they have a great product, and all the trails are. You don't really got to worry. It's not like hunting the Alleghenies where I've gotten lost millions of times.
Oh yeah, it's
but
insane.
Yeah, out west, I mean, it's open. At least where I was, and you're actually, you're always in the sight of a mountain or two, which you can kind of figure it out. And if you got Onyx, you're pretty much set. There's nothing.
You got to name drop some products too here. What was your go-to backpack? What's
Oh yeah, Stone Glacier. That's
where'd you pick that up at?
That's a meat eater product. Yeah,
Really?
they sucked me into that.
Oh,
You can't go wrong. USA made,
Great
Bozeman,
product
Montana.
You're one TV show away from just buying everything.
Yeah, that's right. You can swindle me into
Hopefully
anything.
He doesn't see any Lamborghini commercials anytime
Yeah,
soon.
that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, I got if you put a elk in the back of it, then I'll probably buy a Lambo for sure. But
shit.
so I was 6 to 7 miles deep. It was the peak rut. It was probably about the third week of September. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I was really just running around chasing bugles.
Yeah.
But I saw a lot of elk, and I saw a lot of good elk. I had opportunities that I passed up just because I saw, what I could have. Yeah, so I got roped into that, but I wanted to make it worth it, And,
of course.
I didn't want to be pegged as like a trophy hunter, but I was out there to hunt and to chase bugles and get a feel for it really that first year. And my closest encounter that year was with a big 6x7, and it was within 30 yards, and I'll never forget him ripping a bugle, and I'm not kidding you, I could feel it just vibrate up through my legs. And I didn't know back then, he was only like 30 yards behind this spruce tree. So I drew my bow, but immediately he chirped and he just took off down a hill like a bolt of lightning.
No.
Yeah. And he was chasing hot cows. I mean, it was just that first year, like if I had that year back, it was just a great year to just get me completely roped in to chasing elk. You know, that was supposed to be like a once every 5 year thing. And then I ended up going back 4 years straight.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You were chasing the high, man.
Mm-hmm.
You were chasing the high. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, to be honest, the PA hunters, we have a little bit of a pride issue at that.
Yeah.
You know, we're a little bit of pride folk.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see you going out there having obviously a lot of nerves and stuff. But once you get into the woods, you start putting your woodsmanship in play and, you know, really getting after it. To even have an opportunity or even find elk, a lot of times, from what I understand, your first year, do it yourself type style, that's very, very tough.
Yeah.
It's a hell of an accomplishment.
I had to say, you know, I was pretty lucky. You know, I got, you know, with the lodge, they put me in a great spot. And I had a great packer that year. He wanted nothing but for me to have success.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, you know, I could get into it later, but I've not had the same experience with packers. But there was a couple, the major lesson I learned that year is chasing bugles. You know, I got a little bit too roped in and ended up dropping my pack. And so I drop my pack and I place a pin on Onyx. And then I continue on and I'm chasing bugle. I mean, it's a big bull. I never got eyes on him, but I mean, he was only within 40 yards. It's just, you know, in a bad spot and he's just all over the place. So I dropped my pack thinking I could get close. You know, I'm doing all the textbook stuff, raking trees, making all kinds of ruckus. But, you know, I was also out in the open. In hindsight, not the best place to be. So he was kind of on the edge of the opening, and I know he caught me. So I ended up chasing him, and I don't know how far I chased him, but I went back to my pin, you know, because obviously I didn't have success, and I went go pick up my backpack, and there was no pack. So what I found out, you know, came later on, you know, it takes Onyx a minute to catch up to your GPS location.
Yeah.
So you if you're gonna drop a pin, you want to give it a minute or two.
Let that pin float for a second.
Right, let it float before you take off running. And I searched for my pack. I lost a half a day, you know, looking for my backpack. I had everything in it. I really, you know, shouldn't have been hunting without it. You know, I just told you how important it was. So I trusted it with my life. And then here I was leaving it laying on the ground. Yep. And I ended up leaving that day and going back. It was a long night in the tent, and I went back to the same location. The next day I was very lucky. After about 3 hours, I just stumbled upon it. Yeah. I mean, I was just doing circles around, and I found it laying up against this tree, olive green backpack against a gray tree, you know, kind of tough to see. And luckily found the pack, and then started raining. And by that time it had gotten dark, so I was on my way out and came across a bear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I didn't even know until I had basically walked up on it, and I just heard this. I started smelling this weird smell. I'm like, man, what is that smell? And I keep marching along, and all of a sudden I hear this weird like chirping noise. I hear all this commotion. I look up. All I see is the back end of this huge black bear. To me, it looked like gray phased. I mean, I'm not the best at judging bears, but I would put it around 300 easy. And that thing took off down the hill, you know, thankfully. And I ended up, you know, between there and my camp, you know, I went ahead and kept marching, and I actually came across a dead 6x6 bull elk. And this bear had basically had it just completely ripped apart. And there was a bear den there too. And I found an arrow in that, you know, pile in that carcass. And I don't know how far that bear drug that thing.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, it probably drug it a while. And that's probably why that hunter didn't find it. But that bear, I went back the next day, and the only thing like left of that elk was its head. It just crushed it like within a night. So that was probably like the highlight of my trip, you know.
Yeah.
And lessons learned, you know.
Yeah.
For that first year.
I mean, you still got to put your hand on some bone, throw your tag on its ear, bring it home, say, hey, look what I did.
I thought about it.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
In Oregon, I could have, and
Really?
I didn't know. I didn't know what the regulations were, so I thought it was best to let it lay that year.
That's a
But,
good call.
Yeah, I found out later on that I could have, spent my tag on that elk head
Really?
if I wanted to bring it back. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. So my last day, I could have went in and tagged it.
Right.
Came
On your
out
way
with it.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look what I found, kind of thing. Get
I'm
it?
like, yeah, I got
Yeah.
hungry on the way back to it. Just ate
Yeah.
the whole thing. I didn't want to leave too
All my
much
buddies
behind.
like, "Where's my elk meat?" I'm like, sorry, man.
I
I ate
didn't
it already.
pack enough food for my trip, so I cooked it all.
Yeah,
And the bear got what was left.
that's right.
That's pretty cool. The bear experience and chasing bulls first year, man, that's awesome. Now, you mentioned you went back, 4 years in a row after that?
Yeah, so real quick, I went back my second year. It was a totally different hunt. I went back the first week, which in Oregon was the last week of August, and in the first week of September. And what I found out pretty quickly was how much of a different hunt that is.
Yeah.
There was no bugling. I would call a couple times. You would hear like very just low key bugles talking back to you. But I was like, I don't know if that's another hunter. I don't know what's going on. It's really not the sound I was looking for. And there was a lot more pressure that year. I don't know if people in that area like to hunt earlier on, more of a spot and stalk kind of hunt.
Yeah.
Not relying on the calls as much. But yeah, I mean, it was drastically different that second year. And about the highlight of that trip is I did make my first Western kill and actually plucked a few grouse out of trees.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, the first year I saw all kinds of grouse, and then the Packer's like, "Why didn't you shoot them?" He's like, "Those are good eating." It's like, "I didn't know I could." He's like, "Yeah, you can shoot those." So the next year I was sure to, get a little blood on my boots.
You don't
There you
need
go.
any sort of extra
Nope.
licensing
You
or
just
anything
have
for
your
that?
general hunting tag. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Comes with the tag. Yeah. So that year, I had the same thing, mule deer tag, black bear tag, elk tag, and I actually got a mountain lion tag that year too, because I found out they were pretty cheap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're really cheap.
Yeah, for bear and lion, you can get those tags $30 a pop. The elk and mule deer are going to cost you a little bit more. And actually now, the fourth year I went back, you actually have to draw a mule deer tag for archery.
Really?
Their numbers are down a good bit, at least in that area, so they're a little more strictly managed. But yeah, that second year is totally different. But I still learned a lot. I remember I was chasing bugles down a hill that one of those evenings and ended up in some alder, and I was just I couldn't see. I tried to save my flashlight as much as I can, and I got back to camp and I found I was missing 2 arrows. And you think about things a little bit differently. I should tell you, this year I was out there for 12 days, and I was 12 miles deep. So a different campsite, completely solo again. And all I could think about was I got back to camp, I was like, man, one of those arrows could have fell on my pack and, went through my leg or whatever. I was like, you got to pay a little more attention, man. So that was the year I really started to kind of, be a little more present out there, not get roped into, chasing every bugle, or in that case, it wasn't much of a bugle, it was more of a chuckle.
Yeah.
But when you're not hearing much, you just want to go after everything.
So that was more open ground, not like the real dark, thick, heavy timber kind of areas. It's more open.
There's patches. Yeah, the area I hunt in Oregon, there's a lot of burns. So it's a lot of dry dirt, mountains, rock slides.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of everything out there.
Hey, Sabella, you know what those rock slides are called?
What are those called, Chuck?
Scree.
You and your scree marketing.
Is that what it's called? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, how witty.
But there was another cool thing that year. I actually called in a forest fire that year.
You caused a forest fire? Is that what you're
So
saying?
you called one in?
Called one in, yeah. Thank God for the Garmin that year.
Was that the oh shit button?
It's like every year I go out there, something crazy happens, and that's why I love it so much. It's a freaking adventure.
Yeah.
And I actually was coming down. It was August, and the night before I'd seen where some other hunters had made campsite on this one hillside, way across from where I was. But the next day I was like, man, this is more smoky than it should be. I was like, I better, checked my maps, and I didn't see anything. Because onX will put the, current fires and stuff. They'll mark it on the maps, and I didn't see anything. So I went up the hill and did some hunting. Had a pretty good hunt, saw some elk, but just some cows. I decided not to shoot because I was just miles from the camp. And again, I just wanted the bull. I don't know why, but I decided not to shoot. So anyways, I'm marching back down the hill, and I was like, man, that is a big campfire. And I was like, that is in the same spot where those guys were last night. And I ended up on my way down, I came across another hunter, and we just sat down on the hillside, and we were watching. We're like, oh no, man, it's like for me, this is only, a mile from my campsite, and theirs, I guess it was less than that. And I was like, I don't know, man, it's like this could, as dry as it is out here, that could spark in an instant and we could be in trouble. So it was we both had Garmin's, and we both got a hit. He got a hold of his packer, I got a hold of the lodge, and they ended up calling in the fire to, I don't know, wilderness protection or something like that.
Yogi.
They called it into me.
They called it into Yogi.
Yeah.
Sibs.
Yogi the bear.
Sibs out there.
And then in my small Cessna.
The thing is, they weren't too concerned. They're like, oh, it's, a forest fire. And then they're like, no, he said it was caused by hunters. And they're like, oh, it was caused by people? We'll be in there. So the next day, I'm hiking up the mountain. I hear, it's my best helicopter impression.
That's not bad.
That was pretty good. Yeah. I had some Vietnam flashbacks just when you were doing
Seth,
that.
do you have a better helicopter? I'll give you. Here, let me give
give
you
one.
Seth
boy,
on.
here we go.
Well, we can definitely go
Yeah,
ahead.
let's mute
just
him. We're going to
again,
mute
though.
him.
that
Back.
a-
That was terrible. You had to
Was
warm
that a
up?
dub?
Well, you got to let us know when you're warm. Okay, here you go. Second try.
Any chance to warm up for that?
That's all right.
Second try. Ooh.
All right, you know what? I had a
Listen,
little bit more of an
listen.
uplift on that one.
Listen, I muted him again, but that second try was a lot better than
was
the
a little bit
first.
better.
So the
I'll
warm
give
up
him that
actually
one.
worked.
He wasn't ready to talk. But yeah.
He lubricated his lips on that first one.
Yeah, so his helicopter comes in, drops off a team of guys, and completely smokes like the entire valley for miles and miles. Like I'd wake up, I just got all kinds of smoke in my eyes and stuff. But they came in, they dropped off a team of people, and they actually watched that fire for 2 nights, and they got handled and put out, thankfully. But once again, I lost a couple of days hunting. Just to people being ignorant, really.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen out there. Fortunately, it was man-made incident, but in the same sense, it could be at any time a fire can come through and you're done.
Yeah.
And if you kind of got lucky that you ran into someone, kind of talked it over and made the right choices, but sometimes you don't know that
that was my frame. It's like, I could wake up tomorrow and be completely surrounded.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm just gonna have to leave all my gear and get out of here.
You could wake up
Didn't
dead.
you say, Kyle, at some point you had to set your alarm and wake up every 30 minutes to go out and check for the fire in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I mean, we could make this super long. We guys talk here all
Listen,
night.
we got time.
Saying to me, I don't know why. But
Yeah, well, that being alone out there, it's something you think about. You got to think every situation through as much as you can, and I did. And I set my alarm a few times that night just to get out. And my frame of thinking is if I see orange, all right, grab the backpack and go. But luckily I'd go out and I'd just see the stars and basically the haze of the smoke.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So how bad did it end up getting, that fire? Do you know?
We got in contact pretty quick. So most of the burn was underground, which is why they had to leave a crew there, just to make sure it was controlled. But it was pretty secluded.
That's good.
Yeah, we saw it quick.
And that's year 2.
That's year 2, yep.
Pretty much a wrap. Fire chased you off the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Not much bugling. Any opportunied
grouse.
You got grouse.
Well,
and
the grouse
and
were the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I had chances again. I had a spike within 40 yards, and I don't know. I don't know why I didn't shoot, but I just wasn't 100% confident in the shot. But also, I wasn't sure where I was located at. It was pretty much at the top of a mountain. And I was like, if I get this thing, I got to get it down at the camp. And I don't know how far this thing's going to roll. Being a little green behind the ears still, kept that arrow in the quiver.
Listen, I mean, nobody's going to fault you for that.
I am actually. I wanted some of that backstrap.
Especially him.
I didn't even know you then, but
Yeah.
I'm upset that you still don't have backstrap to hand to me this evening.
We should be eating some elk
We'll
tonight.
get there. We'll get there.
Okay. All right.
I hope.
Continue.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's a wrap on year 2.
Yep.
You went back a third year. Now you're looking for some revenge. You got a little bit of experience on your hands. I mean, you're becoming a Navajo at this point.
I've spent, at that time, quite a bit of time by myself out in the woods. And this year, every year has its own challenges. And this year, the packer was going, the lodge tried to cancel on me because their packer got bucked off a horse and was injured. And it was their only packer. And, for me, that's my vacation. I had it planned. I'm going hunting,
Yeah.
One way or another, I was going to find a way. And that year also with COVID, also caused me some roadblocks. But I decided, we talked with the lodge and they decided to let me pack myself in. So no horses this time. I actually made the walk in. It was about 6 miles, packed for 8 days. And probably had it was close to a 100-pound pack and all uphill again.
Of course. I mean, there's no other way to go, right?
Yeah.
You got to go up.
That's right, but
Billy Goat heritage, I feel like, from his ancestors.
the third time's a charm, like you said, and I ended up capitalizing on a mule deer that year. And funny story, I got to camp and I had forgot my binoculars, and I was like, well, I could burn a day, hunt my way back to camp, or hunt my way back to the car another 6 miles, or I can just keep hunting. And I made the decision that it was only day 2. I was like, and I hadn't really explored much of the country, other than my campsite. So I was like, hunt my way back to my car, grab my binos, start hiking back as far as I can get, build camp for the night. And then, I thought I needed my binoculars.
They're a little more important out west than they are here, I would say. I mean, you can get through a night here, and it still drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm sure same with you if you're up in the tree and you're like, what was that moving?
Oh,
You're trying to look, you're squinting at it. You can't see it, and it bothers you.
That's one thing, I never want to leave, a hunt without anymore.
Yeah.
It's binoculars.
Yep. 100%.
Even just for entertainment purposes.
Exactly.
Watch squirrels or whatever.
Right. Right.
I love them. I love watching wildlife. So, I got to have my binos. And so I was trekking back to the car. And before I even got the mule deer, I haven't talked a lot about this, but that same, hike back to the car, I got on a very big herd bull, probably about 30 cows. And I made a very long stalk to within 40 yards of this bull. And, this could be a whole podcast, me talking about this hunt. And I'd love to come back and talk about it. But just to make it short, I probably never really experienced target panic until that moment. It was a 2-hour stalk, dry dirt on my backside, sliding across the hill. And, the last moment I had no water, completely dry mouth. And at last moment, I just lost my composure, and a cow caught me off guard, and it was probably his head cow. She had me pegged, and it's that moment, it was like, shoot, or he's gone. Mm-hmm. And I rose up, and I remember him quartering hard, looking back at me, and I was like, I'm going to run the gauntlet on this guy. Had him ranged and everything. And I drew back, and I just completely lost focus. And I let an arrow fly, and, I didn't know where I hit him, if I hit him or anything. And he ran up a little bit, about 10 yards, and a cow called, meow. How you doing, Sibs?
Was that a cat?
Hey.
Is it a meow? Meow.
Yeah.
Hold on, Seth.
Oh. Yeah, it's the old, it was the old EO.
Okay.
EO.
Oh,
EO. Yeah. So I gave him one of those, and he turned back, and everything you hear online, it's like, get another arrow in them if you can. Right. They're big animals. And I was shooting a pretty light, fast bow. Hindsight, shoot something a little bit heavier, which I am now. But shot again. Still don't know if I hit him. Just completely unraveled at that time. And he took off, and I, sat there and tried to figure out what happened as I'm hearing all his cows just sounding like the hillside coming down around me. And I just you did what you could, let's see, let's give it time. Being a whitetail hunter, I gave it 30 minutes, but found out pretty quick that, elk are a little bit tougher than whitetails. So I started stalking, and next thing I know, I kicked all the cows up. They had only gone about 50 yards. And I'm looking around for this bull. And I look down and I see a boulder just covered in blood. And I was like, I got him. Done deal. So I start tracking, and I jump him again. Being green behind the ears again. It's tough for me to talk about, honestly. It's just a complete F up in my books. Yeah. And I tracked him for about 2 miles, and the blood, as dry as it was, I can only guess that he had rolled in some of that dry dirt, got clotted up, and the blood trail just turned into pin drops. I mean, it was a solid trail for, a long while. And I decided to turn it in that night, and it's like, get back to the lodge, get your binos, come back in here tomorrow, first light, see what you can find. And that next day, I went down, got my binos, got back on the trail. I had everything marked on Onyx, but I just never found that bull. And at that time, it's like, you effed up. So you got to come to terms with it, get back to your campsite, keep hunting.
Now, did you ever find the arrows or anything?
Yeah, I found the one arrow. It had to have been a pass-through.
Okay.
Stuck in a tree, right behind that tree. Quicker intermission for the dogs to do their thing.
They had to go potty.
Can't blame them.
Yeah, now they're down in the basement. All the dogs are in the basement.
Am I right, guys?
That was good timing, though. That was like keep you on the,
Yeah.
Keep you on the edge of your seat there.
It was. We were all in tears.
It's not a good movie, though.
I believe I was asking something about pass-through of an arrow.
Yeah, I think you asked something about the shot placement where you think you might have hit the animal.
Yeah, so when that cow made note of me and the giant bull also made note of me, he was quartering hard looking back at me. So when the only thing I do remember, before I even pulled back my bow is like, I'm going to run the gauntlet on him, which, in my book, it's like aim for that last rib. Aim for that last rib and try to do as much damage, going through and hopefully, out the other side, which my arrow did, and it stuck in the tree. And, after analyzing the arrow, before I even started tracking, there was a lot of, pinkish stuff on it. And I figured that, it was muscle. So I don't remember my shot. I know what I wanted to do, but I really don't know where that arrow went. And then the second shot, like I said, everything I'd seen online from like Born and Raised and everything I watched is always get another arrow in him if you can. So that's why I tried to cow call, which worked. I mean, he stopped dead in his track, turned back and looked at me. And at this point, he's 60 yards, but it's wide open. And I had practiced out to 70, so I was pretty confident. And the only thing is his vitals were behind a tree. Typical,
They always are.
Funny how that always happens. And I was like, well, everyone's told me to get another arrow in him. In hindsight, I probably should have waited. But I slung another one from 60 yards at his neck and probably hit him. I never found that arrow, but I didn't hear rocks or anything. It sounded pretty like I made contact. And, like I said, didn't wait long enough and started tracking too soon. He got up with the cows, and they all took off running. And, 2 days of tracking that blood trail and just never turned up a dead elk. But
so you regrouped.
I regrouped.
Got back to camp.
Slowly. I didn't get back to camp. Now remember, I had success this year.
Okay.
All right. So I decided to stop tracking that bull and go ahead and make my way back to the original camp. I was still 4 miles. I was only 2 miles into my track back with my binoculars. Binoculars. I need those.
As long as you got them.
Yeah, but as luck would have it, I'm just traversing this hillside, and I happen to see some brush moving below me. I'm like, okay, what's going on there? And I see some mule deer, and I had a mule deer tag in my pocket. Now, what I saw come out was a couple, doe, and I was like, just doe. And I keep seeing, there's still some brush moving. Those alders are still kicking around. So as luck would have it, I in my opinion, didn't deserve it, but this nice 4x3 mule deer comes out 30 yards on a hillside, downhill, totally unaware that I'm there.
Just asking for it.
Asking for it.
He was asking for trouble.
And he got it. He got it. Yeah, I did not have a problem, after missing or, after failing on that elk, I wasn't going to miss again. and I drew back. I remember everything about that shot, and I released that arrow and it hit him right where I wanted to, and it just sounded good, and that thing just took off. Whitetail hunters, might be used to that dead run. This thing just jumped. I mean, he jumped and jumped again, and then he ended up just tumbling down this mountain into this deadfall. And I was like, oh, success, finally. Not just a grouse in my pocket. I got something better this time. And it had gotten pretty late by that time, and I remember just sitting down on the hillside after that and kind of gathering my thoughts, and kicking myself still. It wasn't as sweet as it should have been, just because, the day's events before. And, but, as a hunter, we all experience those moments, and you either, turn it in or you freaking keep forging ahead.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Every one of those moments has been every single day of my hunting experience so far in the last 2 years.
Just shooting elk everywhere?
No, just dog shit moments over and over again.
You gotta hit your button if you want to talk.
Just terrible moments.
Yeah, you're shooting elk and mule deer all over the place.
Yep.
In Beaver County.
Illegally throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Every day.
Tied up in his backyard.
Absolutely.
See what we can do
They
here.
call me the Benazet.
We can just go ahead and mute him too.
Come on.
What do they call you?
They call me the Benazet Strangler for the amount of herds that disappear.
Well, you got to keep at it, man.
Yeah.
It'll happen. It'll be worth it. So that night, it had gotten pretty late, so I got down to that deer and, said a little bit had a moment of grace, and, drug him down to the mountain, and it was not far from the trail. It could not have been an easier pack out. And mind you, I still had 2 miles back to the lodge and to my car, where I had my cooler and everything else in the car and packed with ice already.
So you didn't have anything in at that camp that you initially hiked
No,
into?
I had at this point been away from my camp for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of my gear was still there and all my mountain house and stuff, but I ended up spending an extra night at the lodge, a couple of nights, which wasn't bad. Ate a good meal, but I packed out. I actually cached the meat that night, so I quartered the deer up, hung all the meat up in a tree, what you see. You don't want a bear to get to it. And I had a really big elk quarter game bag. It was white, orange on it, so I hung that up and as a little bit of a deterrent because there were bear in the area. And that was a restless night. I got 2 miles back to the lodge, back down mountain, and I had a restless night, got back out first thing, and started packing that mule deer out. I had the whole thing in my backpack,
Nice.
All 4 quarters, back straps, all the scrap meat, the head, and it was a painful pack out. But it was awesome.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted. And I was crossing hunters on the trail out. They're like, "Oh, nice, nice deer. Where'd you?" I was like, "I can tell get your own, man."
Yeah. I got them somewhere back there. I don't know. I was lost.
But it was awesome. It was an awesome, painful pack out. I remember getting back to my car and just I just threw my pack on the ground and just laid down on the gravel road. But it was comfortable.
Pure exhaustion.
Oh, my feet were raw at the time, and that's where you learn footwear is pretty important, in those types of
Is this where you want
hunts.
to plug what the footwear that you currently use now as
Crispy boots.
well? All right, there we go. I prefer the Krispy Kremes, but continue.
Yeah,
We
but
can tell.
I
Hey,
thought
come on, man.
just going out there, I was like, well, I need something light, I want a trail boot, I want something light that, I can be agile with. But when I was going down the mountain with that heavy of a pack, my toes are just jamming into the front of my boot. I had no ankle support. Everything was just, I'm lucky I didn't break an ankle getting everything out. So, footwear, that's the second most important thing
So we've
after
got
your
the pack, footwear. Okay,
Yeah.
let me write these things down.
You know what's funny about this is that's the same face I saw on Sabelli when we hiked 200 yards up the hill in West Virginia
This is
this year.
false. None of this can be proven. This is all hearsay. I will take you to court over
You're
this.
lucky Booer's not here.
What kind of boots were you wearing? You gonna
I
rip 'em?
wear I rep Tanner. I think Booer got me on those ones. Those Tanners.
Danner?
Danners.
I like
Danners?
Tanners. Nah, Danners and Tanners. They're the same thing.
So look,
We'll get him there, people.
he's got decent boots. It was a fact of that he was dressed for the Arctic, on a 55-degree morning on
Oh,
a spring
yeah.
turkey hunt.
Oh God.
You smell real fresh, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I wake up in the morning, my body's just old and decrepit. It was a little chill to the air, and I was like, man, I'm just freezing cold. I'm just like layering up. You'd think like I was leading some sort of expedition to the Arctic, and both of them were just looking at me. They're like, dude, you know it's gonna like warm up a little bit. It's like, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. I can take all this stuff off. Well, fast forward a slight brisk uphill jog to get to the spot where Chucky was setting us up at. I was just, it was almost the end for me. I was getting ready to, if I would have had one of those Garmin's with the SOS button, I'd have hit it. And I was only 150 yards from the road. And I'd have just had some state cop come over and just drag me down to the road.
Well, I'll tell you,
I would
man.
have just put a bullet in them and just called it a day.
I get cold easy, but you know what I do is I go in basically in my base layer. You know, especially when I hunt the Alleghenies. You're going to be walking in, a mile or two every morning.
You live and you learn. And I've learned the last year and a half.
You got to learn, man.
Here's
You got to learn. Yeah, but I packed that mule deer out, got it all packed and squared away. And I actually went back in. I had a few more days to hunt. And I, once again, had opportunities at cow elk. And I didn't shoot, at that point. Had a really good opportunity the last day. But
so you just hate elk meat.
Yeah, this guy, he's just a vegetarian. We want to preface all this all with he's a vegetarian.
You just hate elk meat.
If you do remember, at the start of this hunt, my packer got hurt. So if I shot that elk 6 miles deep, I would have been packing out another animal, which tail between my legs,
with your non-crispy boots at the time, right? You didn't have
No,
Crispies,
I
or
had
did you have
Crispies.
Oh, then you're good.
I know.
So I remember when Kyle bought his Crispies, I'd never heard of them. And I remember being in Harrisburg with him for the outdoor show. And he's like, let's go look at these boots in this booth over here. I'm like, okay. I did not expect to see him drop $450 on a pair of boots. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I felt like taking his wallet from him because I'm like, what are you about to do? But apparently they're worth it.
In hindsight,
They're worth it.
I did not have Crispies that year.
See?
In hindsight,
This is
You just said that
this
you
is
were
all a
packing that
sham.
muley
No,
out
wait.
in your-
19.
I had both. I had the Crispies, and I
When
had
did we go to Harrisburg?
I had the Crispies, and I had a pair of Columbia trail boots. And the trail boots is what I decided to go in with, which
Amateur.
in hindsight was not good.
If only he had a pair of
And then
tannins.
when I went back in,
You done messed up, Aaron.
when I went back in after I got back to the truck, I put my Crispies on, and I was like, these boots are heavier, but they feel like pillows on my feet.
They will never
this
leave your feet
is
again.
way better. And those boots, I'm still rocking them. They've seen some stuff.
We have the same boot, right?
I don't know. The 400 gram Insulate.
Not 200, but it's the same ones. Pretty sure.
I don't know. They're all great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah. So that was year 3. Finally capitalizing.
Awesome. Got it done. You
Got it done.
You finally got some meat packed back with you.
And it was good. I'll tell you one thing about that meat is there's a lot of sage and wild peppermint in this area. And that meat was super pink, and it had just a hint of peppermint flavor to it.
Really?
Which did not upset me. I'm not a peppermint guy, but I don't
it
know.
tastes
Maybe
good
it's
with
as
your
hard
mule
as
deer.
I worked for it. I don't know. Everything tastes better when you work hard for it. So
No doubt. I mean, finally, after 3 years, everyone back home's thinking, who knows what this guy's doing out on that mountain, for 2 years, not bringing anything
He's talking about
back.
meeting guys on these weird scree trailheads. And
I always promise my coworkers jerky and stuff, and I always come home empty-handed. It's like, sorry guys.
rumors start to fly.
All I'm saying is that last dog break, I wrote down dog broke back break. So I'm just saying.
That's for the Patreon episode in case anyone wants to help support the channel.
Yeah.
Sibs will be narrating that one.
Why can't I quit you?
Oh, shit. All right. So you had a year 4, though, correct?
I did, yeah, and that was last year. And
okay.
I mean, I finally drew a rifle tag, and I drew that tag. And I'm like, oh, piece of cake. I know the area. I know the animals. I know everything. But one thing you can never predict is the weather. And I think I can speak for a lot of Oregon hunters last year for that rifle hunt. It's only a week long, 7 days.
Okay.
And we had a wicked storm come off the coast. That coast pushed all the way east to where I was hunting, and it dumped about 2 feet of snow on the campsite where I was to be packed in. Again, different packer. And like I said, the first year I had a great packer, and I keep cycling back to it. I mean, dude was great. First 2 years, dude won nothing but success for me. And then I just never got that again.
Yeah.
You want to give a shout out to this organization,
No.
this group? No,
I give too much info away.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
So this
okay.
whole COVID thing is, the good packers just didn't want to work anymore, or what?
Well, so like I said,
They were all home on unemployment.
it was 2 days before the hunt started, and they got all this snow. And there was actually a elk hunter who was dropping his gear off who got stranded, and he actually needed to be rescued.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so they
Shitty
called
You're
in.
just a disaster when you go out
I'll
west.
tell you, man, but that's why I love it. It's always a story. And this guy, he packed in all his gear, and he got caught in this storm, and they sent Forest Services in for him. They didn't find him until the second day. He couldn't. The storm was so bad that he couldn't find his campsite. So the dude ended up like sleeping under a log. Is lucky to be alive. He's a
Wow.
resident hunter, lived in the area, went up, just couldn't get back down.
Jeez.
Yeah, so,
You sure you want to go out
His
there?
name was
Somali?
Joe Seaburn.
His name was John Cena.
Yeah, so the weather, I also did not feel good. I'm not going to say I had COVID or didn't. I just did not feel myself that year. And dealing with the packer, he wouldn't pack me in. And I get it. He's like, some guy's stranded up there. I'm not going to pack this kid in all by himself. And I said, to hell with it. I'm going in, whether you take me or not. So I found another route in to one of my other campsites, 12 miles. I loaded up my backpack. It was supposed to be my girlfriend and I's vacation. The weather pretty much ruined it, but she's a trooper. She took me, she dropped me off at the trailhead. We said our goodbyes, and I started tracking in 12 miles. I burned a whole day hunting just to get to a campsite. I did hunt a couple days around the lodge. Didn't really have any success. I felt confined. I wanted to get out. I wanted to roam. So I did. I went in 12 miles, and, the other problem I ran into is I crossed a lot of wolf tracks. And, I was by myself, but I don't really pay much attention to it other than that, oh God, now I got to compete with the wolves too. I'm not the apex predator out here, and what I had learned pretty quickly is that I was hunting pretty high country, for that area. The area I'm hunting is anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 feet, which isn't crazy high, but that's all in the same little bubble,
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of elevation change. And, the wolf pack had come through. There's a couple wolf packs they're keeping track of in the area. And what I can gather is that they pushed a majority of the elk out of the high country and down, into pretty low elevations, which I wasn't hunting, wasn't familiar with it. Pretty dense forests.
Does the snow do that as well?
Yeah. Snow
Yeah.
would do that too. So between the
So
snow,
a combination of both,
Yeah.
it seems like really screwed you up.
something that I thought that was going to be a lock, it's
Yeah.
it's like this is a piece of cake. And that was maybe the frame of mind that did me in, in the long run. So, I hunted my butt off that, and 12 miles in, I had to pack, basically did a giant loop, and I had to pack out, 12 miles the other direction through the snow. And as I was heading up the mountain on that last day, I came across some nice tracks, and I was like, well, the big boys were still here. You screwed up. You should have been here, And it was a tough walk out, as, basically post-holing through snow. That snow is super crunchy. You didn't know when you were going to fall through.
Right.
You didn't know. And I came across that guy's tracks, and I was like, he ended up only being like 40 yards from his camp, but the dude just couldn't see it,
Yeah, it was that bad.
I can only imagine, what he went through, but
Yeah.
still,
Dude,
I'm like,
when that panic settles in.
oh yeah. And
Yeah.
he was hiding under, he made, some dent out of like some fallen down tree, and that's how he ended up making it through the night. And, yeah, that hike out, it was tough. And every time I'm out there, I push myself and, trying to get it done. And that was one of the hardest walks out. I'm like, well, you can quit now, calling, the packer who wouldn't pack you in and let him win, or you can pack yourself out, And I got back to the lodge, and he's like, dude, I don't know how you did it. And I was like, it would have been a lot easier if you would have packed me in, you know?
Yeah.
So this guy was from Colorado, a big beard and all this, and I'm 130 pounds soaking wet, more like probably 120 at this point, all the calories I burn. And, but, if you want to do it, you're going to do it. And that's one thing I won't back down, This year I'm taking it off, deciding to pursue some other interests and pay my dues with the house and get some stuff organized around my home. But, I'll be back for sure.
Any heard it here first kind of breaking news do you want to share?
Well, not really. Like I said, I took this year off from the Western hunts, but
Anything planned for the future for sure? Like set in stone, you thinking? Next year after?
I'm thinking I'm going to get back next year.
Yeah.
It might be a spring bear hunt, but it might be back heading into elk country too. I mean, I'm missing it. It's rough. Right now,
I can imagine.
most people, if you know elk, right now it's the peak rut, and it's tough scrolling through Instagram right now, I'll tell you
About
that.
10 minutes ago when we were looking,
Yeah, dude.
you could see the little bit of life leave your eyes.
Yeah,
as you were
especially
watching
like
Cam Haynes pull out a back.
Especially like after that storm last year, I'm like, oh man, these guys, because rifle hunters had a tough time. I'm like, there's got to be a lot of elk this year to be had. But, one thing exciting, I did go to taxidermy school this year.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so I decided, I spent basically what I would going elk hunting to go through taxidermy. And, I'd love to come back and talk to you guys about that. And I'm excited to get that up and underway. And
Awesome.
yeah, I'm really, really rearing to go. And, I feel very confident and hoping to get some clients this year. And
You got us for sure. You'll have all my squirrels that I kill with our buddy
we're
Joe
not
Seaburn.
doing squirrels.
Yeah, you're going to do
That's not
squirrels.
where the money's
yeah,
at, Sibs.
yeah, I'll give you a top dollar.
Top dollar?
Top dollar.
Okay.
Top dollar.
And a tip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a tip.
Or just a tip.
I want
Who
him out.
knows?
All right, let's take it easy over here, huh?
He's going to play the game just the tip. Just to
Yeah,
see how it
but,
feels.
How do you think he gets all those hats from Seth?
Yeah, that's true.
Wink, wink.
But, I still got that. I still want that Western hunt. I got some backpack trips planned into the Allegheny National Forest. I'm going to, I really would love to get a bear this year. So I'm going to do some archery hunting in the A&F there and spend a couple nights, just to get my fix, solo in the Allegheny National Forest, and probably do 2 or 3 nights. And we got West Virginia again this year. So I got a bear tag for there too, or I will. And we'll see how that goes.
Let's be honest. West Virginia is pretty close to Oregon as far as
Yeah,
as far as the terrain,
Topography.
I would agree. Right.
I think the
it's
scree is
challenge of
roughly the
entire
same.
hunt.
You want to know something, Seth? That is 100% inaccurate.
But here's the thing that you don't get in Oregon. When we shoot something in West Virginia, we go to the Mexican restaurant across from the hotel,
We
and
do.
we get margaritas, and
We
we
do.
celebrate. We have a great time,
You wear a sombrero.
and we will
Oh, whoa,
wear
whoa.
a
There's
sombrero.
a sombrero involved?
Every time
That's- you
when
shoot
we're in
a
West
buck, you
Virginia,
gotta
when
get
you
a
shoot
sombrero.
a buck, we go to this Mexican restaurant, and we get margaritas. And I don't remember a sombrero, but if there is one, we
I think
will
there's
wear
a
it.
reason why you don't remember the sombrero.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome tradition. And actually, if we pack out like last year's first day, we packed out a deer. We got out at 9:00, and they closed at 10. I want to say we got there at like 9:30, and we still had our margaritas and we got stuffed. And it was awesome. I mean, it's just one of those things you always look forward to, the margarita after the kill in West Virginia.
I'm quite envious.
Hey,
That sounds amazing.
I do a lot of solo hunts, but, there's something different, going out with a group of guys.
I
and,
may or may not have been invited to this West Virginia.
We're still debating
no,
on your...
no.
We haven't
I've
sent your
already-
invite out
I've-
yet, Sid.
I've-
Is there a lottery system? Can
Yes.
we put in for
I
a
was-
lottery?
Yeah.
I was pulled. We did one of those blood handshakes where we
Yeah.
cut our hands like real weird, like skull and crossbones.
You gonna wear your tanners down there?
Yes, I'm gonna
Wear
wear.
your
I'm gonna wear
tanners.
my tanners.
Oh, good one.
It started
Sorry, go
out.
back.
It started out me and like my uncle, going to West Virginia and his wife. So then I'd be bored, I'd be in the hotel by myself, bored out of my mind. They go to bed at 8:00. So I'm bringing some friends down. So I would bring a friend down, and they'd shoot a buck every year. So then it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, maybe this year I'll bring 2 friends down. Well, Kyle came down with me and shot the nicest buck in West Virginia.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row. And then after that, we got a little group together where we had a couple of friends come down. And I think this year coming up, I think there's going to be like 6 of us getting together. And I look forward to the camaraderie of like the guys getting together just as much as the hunt now. When I get in the truck and I head south for West Virginia, that's what I'm looking forward to. Just as much as getting in the woods is getting together with the guys and getting the pizza and the beer in the hotel rooms and hanging out. And that's just as fun to me.
Yeah. About when do you make that trip usually?
That'll be the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Sunday we get down there. Sunday usually by lunchtime we're there.
It's an archery or gun hunt.
This
That's
is
a
a
gun
That's
hunt.
gun season, right?
Yeah, they come in about a week before us.
To
I'm
be
telling you,
fair,
dude.
every season in West Virginia seems to be rifle season.
That's a
As
good
as
point.
we found out
No
in
point
Turkey this year.
restrictions, and the rut, I'm telling you, is still in full swing at
the
that
bucks
point.
are still.
So gun
my
hunting
buck I shot
and
last year.
the rut can't
The
miss
buck I
that.
shot last
Let
year
me check
was
my schedule.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
free.
sorry, sir. No.
Yeah, the buck I shot last year was pushing a doe, grunting, second day of rifle season, and I mean it was probably borderline my biggest buck I've ever shot. I have to measure him, but he's a really really good deer, and it was about to run to Kyle. I could not let him do it. 3 years in a row, I couldn't let him have it.
Kyle was planning on quartering it and hoisting it into a tree just to
You know what's funny is we
just so
quarter
everybody could see it.
we quarter and cape out all of our deer down there. Because, like the last several years, you can do that. You can quarter them out, debone them, and just pack them out. And that's easier than up there in the mountains. It's easier than dragging them. But Kyle is like a surgeon when it comes
I've
to
heard.
caping out a deer. He's even better now. I
Well,
think.
it was your biggest buck maybe ever, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
it was
gonna
up
screw
there,
it
yeah.
up.
Yeah, you got.
Do you have any how-to videos for this?
No.
I think
Yeah,
that's
we got some good
The thing
aerial
is-
shots.
You got to come and
but
see.
well,
So-
I plan on it.
We can cycle this back, to me going out west. And little does Seth know, but I'm starting to, get him ready for his trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've,
He's going to bring you
quartered
to
up
Starting in West Virginia, then you got to
to.
move them up to the Alleghenies,
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
maybe
See, we'll give Dougie a plug. He's seen the
Yeah,
surgeon
we
at
gotta
work,
get Dougie out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and hey, you guys are more than welcome.
Yeah, no, I'll pass.
I'm
That's a hard
No,
pass.
you should not.
Yeah, it's a hard pass.
You should not pass.
I'm just saying, like that whole. I have a West Virginia license thing. You got
The margaritas.
Oh, no, we're not talking
Or
about West
Margaritas.
Virginia. He's
I
talking
know.
about Oregon.
I know. I'm still stuck on this West
you're
Virginia
not,
trip.
You're not welcome.
Well,
to
we'll
that.
see how he does in
Yeah,
West
that's
Virginia,
fine.
and then we'll get Chucky
Sabelli's
out to
gonna
Oregon.
hunt. I think there's a Walmart. Okay, and there's a hill behind it. I feel like that's where Sabelli's gonna end up.
I'm
He's
going to try to
be-
shoot as many doves as I can from the roof. And I'm going to have those little dove kebabs waiting for you guys to come back.
I hate you.
All right, that's cool.
I hate everything about you.
Sponsored by Tanner's. America's Boots since 1946.
Can't breathe. I hate you. Oh man. Well, that was a great ending to that one. I appreciate you boys. I really do appreciate you. But I need you to give us a shout out because you had a little play on words earlier about forging ahead.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. So, if you have any questions about going out west, we didn't really dive too much into gear. I mean, a little bit, but
We just gave him a taste.
just a taste.
It's a little
Yeah,
teaser.
yeah. I
tip,
got
if
It's
you
like
will.
a wine sipping.
got a lot more stories. Like anytime I go out there, I get into something.
Yeah.
Even hunting, even the Alleghenies, I always get into something. But as far as I see it, you gotta put yourself in some uncomfortable situations, and at times, I don't know who said it, but embrace the suck. I
That's
think,
a great saying.
yeah. I mean, I have bad days. I struggle a lot, but I'll remember some of my most difficult hunts out west, and I'll be like, dude, you packed out a mule deer, a full deer, 200 yards, down 2,000 feet. Then that's not that bad, And so my whole motto: forge ahead. So you can get a hold of me, forgeahead_outdoors. Message me for gear tips, or right now it's about the perfect time to start planning an elk hunt. If you're thinking about 2023, get a hold of me. I'm open to any questions. And thank you, Northern Outcasts Outdoors. Thanks for having me back after that whiskey podcast.
I thought it was a great
you guys-
podcast.
Well, we'll have a whiskey podcast.
And if you guys are looking for legitimate taxidermy, check him out because his taxidermy, I've seen one deer head after his taxidermy school and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The
We'll
the
get-
quality of a deer head that he can do now is actually legit.
Yeah, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to create like a business, an actual business, or are you going to run
We're
it
going to see
through-
where it runs. I don't want to take
I mean,
on
if someone wants to get taxidermy done, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah,
Through
specifically
Instagram?
squirrels.
Forge Ahead Outdoors right
Forge
now.
Ahead Outdoors.
Forge Ahead
Okay.
_outdoors. We're going to take it slow. We're going to make sure, that the people I take on this year get some good work back.
Sure.
I get a little more practice under my belt, and we're going to see where things cascade from there.
It sounds good. I mean, I'm all in for shooting a 90-inch deer and bringing it to you.
Hey, you guys bring me some work.
He needs something on his website.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Little deer look just as good as big deer.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Taxidermy's all in the other work.
Hey, trophies all in the eyes of the beholder.
That's
so
right.
when Sibbs shoots that little spike in
Oh,
West
yeah.
Virginia, I got the perfect
I hate you.
Anything comes over a hill, it's gone.
got the
That's the
perfect
beauty
mount
of
for
West
him.
Virginia.
Oh, I hope it's a turkey, actually.
We're gonna work up to the turkey. We're
He's not
starting with
going.
deer.
okay.
He's not going anymore.
All right, well, maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
All right, and we can't go away without thanking as well Seth for coming and hanging out with
I
us,
have a
and
good time with you guys.
Citizens
always.
Hunting Company as
Yep.
well, being
I
one
gotta
of our
supply the
sponsors of the
headgear
show.
for you guys.
That's right, man. We appreciate it greatly. Greatly. So check them out on Instagram. Check my boy at Forge Ahead _outdoors on Instagram. Boys, it was a good time. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is sweet stuff.
Hey, come on, man.